What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to 75 South Gardening. Today I'll be showing you a quick and easy way to set up a garden in a small area. All you'll need is your rake, your shovels, and a lawnmower if your blower doesn't mulch leaves. Now this area is about 25 by 10 feet, but I'll only be using 20 by 5 since I won't be coming too far past the raised bed. Now I've already started cleaning up underneath and I have it leveled off. Now all I have to do is go over here near the porch, level this ground off and get it ready for my containers. And I also have containers in this area here, from the bed all the way to where the window starts. I'm going to show you guys exactly how I do that step by step. So I'm going to start right here in front of the raised bed where I left off and show you exactly what I'm doing to the ground. So what I'm doing is pretty much scraping up all the grass and weeds with the flat end of the shovel here for the area that I'll be using for my containers. And I pretty much have this area over here done. And I also found some potatoes that she probably dropped on the ground and didn't know they've started growing. I'm going to use these as seed potatoes. This one here has already sprouted a little. So I'm just going to use these right here to grow more potatoes. And this one here is still connected to the plant. So I might even throw that in some dirt just to see what happens. I'm going to finish up chopping the rest of the dirt and I'll cut you guys back on. Alright, here's my layout for my mom's summer garden. Now over in this area, this is where the bell peppers, tomatoes, and cucumbers will be, and they're going to stop right at the corner. Now over here, I'll grab a few of her pots from the front yard that have flowers just to attract more pollinators. Now on this side is where I'll have the containers and grow bags. I'm going to have my grow bags straight down the porch here with sweet potatoes and potatoes. And those 5 gallons I'll put here, and we're going to be growing pole beans and yard lawn beans on this little trellis that I made that's connected to the bucket. But before we get into any of that and mixing any soil, I'm going to have to stop by a store and get more cardboard. That is what I'm using this year for a weed barrier versus landscape fabric. It always seems to tear over time. Now with the cardboard, it will actually compost over time and keep the weeds down long enough to kill them. And I'll cover this with mulch. But up against the house here, we're gonna go straight down with rocks. So what I'm going to do now is finish this all the way around my layout here. But before I get to that, let's go to the bottom and talk a little bit about the garden skink, which is the little lizard that you see right there. If you see one of these in your garden, don't kill it. They're harmless, and they also are good for the garden. These will eat your moths and caterpillars that love to damage your plants. They will also eat the grubs that love to damage your brassicas. They eat cockroaches, flies, beetles, spiders, and sometimes they even eat earthworms. So if you see one of these fellas in your garden, just leave it alone. Alright, so I'm pretty much done except for removing that little bush there. But you can see how deep I went down with the dirt. My mulch is going to hold in place just fine. So once I get done with this, laying the cardboard down and the mulch, I'll move along to the raised bed. I'm basically going to fill it back up with some of the old soil. I'm going to amend it with compost from my yard and black cow. Now for the easy part. All I have to do is put my cardboard in place and lay down my mulch. I'm going to stick them together as you would do shingles. Now, as I get closer to the edge here, I'll just get my razor blade and cut it into the same shape, then lay my mulch down. Just like that. Now that I have my cardboard in place, I can go ahead and cut it into the shape of the outline with my utility knife. I have most of it done already. Just have that section over there to finish and a strip across there. So I'm going to get the cutting over here first, and I'll work my way to the other side. Okay, everything is in place and cut into the shape of the outline. Now I can go ahead and soak my cardboard down and add my mulch. We still have this little fella right here hanging around, and he's probably picking out all of my earthworms out of the soil that's left in this raised bed. Now the reason for soaking this is so that it softens up, so that when you put your mulch down, it doesn't stick up like this piece right here. Okay, so I went ahead and did half just to give you guys an example of how it's going to look once I'm finished. And this is simply pine mulch. It's pretty cheap at your local nursery. So what I'm going to do now is just finish this side, then I'll go along the back side with rocks. Okay, so this is pretty much a sneak peek at how everything's gonna look, minus 2 more containers for my bell peppers. So what I'm gonna do now is show you how I mulch the leaves with my blower. And let's see what we got here. I'm gonna pull all the trash out of here also. Now these will be going on the bottom of the raised bed under my manure and compost mixture. Alright, now that I have my leaves mulched, what I'm going to do is come in here and simply just level it off. Nothing fancy, just level it off. I'm going to take this cow manure here and dump it right on top of it. I'm going to do the same thing on this side, then I'll mix in my compost in the top layer. Alright, so I have the top layer mixed in with my compost. I also have my first 2 collards transplanted. So I'm going to finish up the next 4, and that's it for the elevated raised bed this year. I'm also not going to be putting anything into the holes. Just simply going to sit them in like this, cover them up. That's it. And you want to space these at least 18 inches apart. Another thing I like to do is make a small mound to support the stem, just by doing that. Same thing here. And that's it. Now all I have to do is go back with my mulch. Now another tip is, when you're transplanting collards or bell peppers, always check underneath your leaves. Sometimes they may have pests such as caterpillars or even aphids. As you can see, they have been chewing on these already. So always look underneath your leaves before transplanting them into your garden, because you could be bringing pests into your garden. Alright, now here's the final setup. I made a few changes. In the front here, in these containers, we have potatoes, just regular potatoes, Yukon Golds and Red Northerns. I'm not sure which one is Yukon Gold, but we'll find out when we harvest. These 3 bags here will be sweet potatoes, and over here I'll have pinto beans and yard long beans growing up the trellis here. And on the other side, the first 4 buckets will be bell peppers. And in the grow bag, I'll have Market More cucumbers growing up this trellis. And over here, where I have the 5-gallon buckets, we'll be growing super beefsteak tomatoes. The only thing that is left to do now is mix my soil. I'm going to mix it a little different. I'm not going to add any fertilizer like I did on the Gardening for Beginners, simply because each crop requires a different fertilizer. Okay, so let's talk about the fertilizers that I'll be using. Now, if you're going to be growing tomatoes or bell peppers, either one of these will do, as long as they have lots of calcium. That's going to help you prevent blossom end rot. I'm also going to be adding bone meal. Now, this one here isn't pure phosphorus. It has a little nitrogen in it, but that won't hurt the plants at all. As far as my collards, you know I use blood meal. Now, my potatoes will have a mixture of the all-purpose, the potash, and a little bone meal. And once they become established plants, I'll start fertilizing every other week with my fish fertilizer and a little kelp to help it fight off plant disease and to also help it absorb nutrients faster. And around the bed on the ground where I have my mulch, I'll be adding 7 insect killer. Now, earlier in the video, I mentioned that I'll be reusing some of my old soil. And what I like to do is simply add compost. But you also need a slow release fertilizer. Now, a lot of people just simply look at the NPK, but that's not what's important when you're reviving old soil. Organic slow release fertilizers have all of the bacteria and fungi that you need to break down the organic material in the compost, which in return provides nutrients for the plants. So always add an organic slow release fertilizer when reusing old soil. Alright, I have everything transplanted and pretty much done except for the rocks. I'm going to give you guys a closer look. We have the beans ready, the sweet potatoes, and over here in the corner we're going to be starting sunflowers, bush beans, and corn. And the way I like to do these is just simply push them down with my fingertip into the soil and cover them up. They don't have to be that deep. Same thing with the beans. And make sure it's lying flat or it might grow upside down. And that's it. And these will be going over here in those 3 containers. Now on the other side, I have the bell peppers and the Market More cucumbers that will be growing up this trellis. And over here we have the super beefsteaks. Now I will be using these tomato cages for my containers. And yes, tomatoes will outgrow those cages. That's why I like to drill holes in the top of the 5-gallon buckets and just sit them down in there so that it doesn't outgrow the cage as fast. And also, super beefsteaks like to grow bushy. So I'm not going to let it grow too far past this, and I will let a few of the suckers grow. I did that last year, and I actually had a better yield versus growing them straight up the trellis that I have in my backyard with the string. So I'll be updating you guys in about 3 weeks and let you see how everything turns out.